Oh, good evening, YouTube. It is Thursday, the 20th of July, and I've stopped early tonight. And I've had a pretty good day, very interesting day, as they usually are. I'll tell you all about it, and a few things that I want to clarify about framing as well from yesterday, and we'll see how we get on. So, this morning I didn't have a job booked in. Woke up in my own bed after having quite a late night last night, and I was on the feed from about 8 o'clock onwards. I wasn't really awake, to be fair, but I was looking for jobs, and then a job came up about 20 past 8 that was going from Boston, so about half an hour from me, to where was he going to? Let me just consult my phone. By the way, while I'm doing this, I'm getting my steps in at the moment. This is why I'm doing it, not in the van, and I'll come to that in a moment as to what I'm doing tonight. So my job this morning was from Boston to Blackpool. It was 181 miles on this CX. It said it was for 3 pallets for a long wheelbase van. So I bid £180, just a tad under £1 a mile. And I did that because I was, by that point I'd bid on about 3 or 4 things and I hadn't got anything, and I was beginning to feel I should get out there on the road and at least get something. So I felt £180 was fair. I was happy to earn that. Blackpool for me felt like it was in a reasonable area, sort of northwest. I don't know the area that well, but there are some jobs around there, so I took it. And in the end, it was only 2 pallets, and I made my way from Boston to Blackpool. It was about 3.5-4 hours journey, and I ended up getting to Blackpool and offloaded by 10 to 2. So that's a good start to my day. Next, I was looking for other work, bid on a few things, and I got a really nice job. It was going from Preston, which was only about 15 minutes from where I was dropping off. It wasn't actually in Preston, it was like Preston area, PR4, going to a place called Burnt Island, which is north of Edinburgh. And I took the call just as I was arriving to tip my first load, and he asked me how long would it take to get there, and I told him my time, and he said that was fine. So I had to get unloaded first where I was, and then get across to pickup point. So I managed to get to the pickup point with 5 minutes to spare, pressed the save as arrived at pickup point, and then went to find the right area to pick up my item. And when I arrived at the warehouse bit, no one seemed to know what I was there for. I had a contact name, so I told them the contact name, and so they got him from the office, and he came down, and he kind of knew a bit about what I was there for, but I got a sense that no one was particularly sure what was going on. So the guy pointed to the thing he was going to give me. Oh, actually, before I say that, the shipper did ask me whether I had enough height for a 1.5 metre high pallet, which I do have. So he did confirm the height of the pallet being 1.5 metres. So the guy in the warehouse pointed to this item, which was way over 1.5 metres. It was taller than me, and it looked like it had 2 parts to it. It looked like the first part might be 1.5 metres. The second bit was another couple of feet, but it was all attached. And I did ask, can it be taken apart or can it be put on its side? And it wasn't able to do that. So we quickly realised that I wasn't going to do the job. I got him to call his guy, and I went to call the shipper and waited for the shipper to come back to me. And eventually they agreed they would have to cancel the job, which is what we kind of knew right from the start when I first called them. And I waited for them to come back to me about what they were going to pay me for my cancellation fee, and I was expecting 50% of my full job because that's what's in my terms and conditions. And she came back and offered me £40. Oh yeah, so actually, yeah, I'll tell you what it was. It was a 227 mile job. It was for a large wheelbase van, and I bid £225, 225. So I was expecting to get £112.50 as my cancellation fee, and she offered £40. And I explained as nicely as I could that I didn't think that was a fair amount, bearing in mind I'd already arrived, and that was my terms were 50% of the job. And she seemed quite shocked that a driver would ask for 50% of the job. She went back to her colleague and they had a chat about it, and she came back, and I was thinking at this point, I'm not working for these guys again. This is crazy, because it's not my fault that the dimensions even on the system it says 1.5 metres, and it wasn't. I don't think it's even the shipper's fault. I think it's their customer's fault for miscommunicating what they were trying to deliver. Anyway, so we got to the point where they came back and she explained that she could only offer me £50 maximum, and she managed to sweet talk me into accepting it for two reasons. One, I'm really soft, so anyone can sweet talk me really easily just by saying what they want. And B, she did explain, because I did say to her, well, you can just charge your customer. She did say to me that they couldn't charge the customer for this because the customer was angry with them and wasn't going to pay them anything. And I said that I would believe you on this occasion and compromise and go for £50. She sounded genuine, to be fair, but you can never tell, can you? I think there would be other shippers that you might sense they would just try and pull a fast one. But I generally thought in this case she's probably telling the truth. I had no reason to doubt her anyway. So I came to the conclusion that I wasn't going to get anywhere by holding out. £50 is better than nothing. I have a reputation to sort of maintain. You know, I am sort of trying to. My values wouldn't allow me to kick off at this sort of thing. I do want to be friendly and polite and professional. So I quite quickly decided that I would just accept it, and we left that conversation on good terms. So I was then stuck as inverted commas, near Preston, trying to look for another job, and I was all ready to go up to Scotland again, but at least I got a reasonable amount of money for the time that I was waiting around. So I was looking around for another job and bid on a few things, and then a job came up which was really confused me a little bit. It was from LA2 to LA2, and it said 1 mile, 2 trips, and it asked for a large wheelbase, and I was 32 miles away from it, but it was sort of out in the middle of nowhere, well, Lancaster area. It wasn't actually Lancaster, and so I thought, well, I'll put a bid on of 60 quid and see whether I get anything, because it's mainly for my time and the getting to the place. And I got a call back and they offered me the job. And I made a slight error here, because I was in the middle of trying to cancel off my second job of the day, the cancellation on the system. I was waiting for them to update the price so I could then take it off, upload the pod and create the invoice. So I was in the middle of trying to do that when they called me back. So I was a bit flustered, and I was quite pleased to get a job, so I just accepted it. And then once I sort of got the second job closed down and I was on my way to LA2, I was thinking, well, this is a weird job. Large van for 2 trips, going like, in the notes it said going 5 miles, 10 minutes drive. So I thought, from the name of the customer, it might be furniture that I'm moving, and I was thinking I might have to do 2 vanfuls of furniture, which would be loads of handballing as well. And I thought, if that is the case, I'm not going to want this job. So I called back the shipper and asked her what it was, and she just said a couple of items, which, when she said that, made sense as to why I was doing it. And I thought, that's fine, I've asked and I'm reassured that it's not going to be a massive load of handballing. I was going to have some help putting the items on and off the van. She said there's 2 people to help me. So I was reassured on the way up there that it was going to be an okay job. So yeah, I did it. So I got there. In the end, what it was my collection point was actually the point to collect, in inverted commas, collect the people. They were in their own van, their own car, and I followed them just down the road to their storage unit. We then loaded up my van with some items from the storage unit. It all ended up going in one trip, which was really good. And then we just drove back to my collection point to offload them at their office. And so it wasn't 2 trips, it was quite easy, wasn't a lot of handballing, and well worth the money. And when I got it all signed off, I rang the shipper to just double check how they wanted the invoice doing, and she said on the CX was fine, rather than having to post it. And I just thanked her for the job. I said it was a nice job to do. And then I came away from there, and I finished there about 4:40, and I thought I might have some time to get another job now. So I was looking around, but I was in a bit of a weird area. I'm not quite sure. So I'm really close to the M6. I'm north of Preston and south of Carlisle, and just south of Lancaster. And there is work, I think, from my experience, coming out of those places, but I don't think it's a lot. But equally, I'm not surrounded by people. So I bid on some stuff, but it's all more sort of Blackburn, Leeds, Manchester, Warrington way, which is all about an hour away from me. And I decided what am I going to do. So, and in a future video, I want to talk about tramping and the advantages of tramping, but I'm not going to do that today. But I decided what I would do is I would just stay where I was, reduce the dead miles. I've made my target for today. I'll go through the stats in a moment. But I will keep an eye out. It's not even 5:30 yet. I will keep my eye out for any other work that comes up. And if it does come up tonight, I'm going to be in a really good place. If it's anywhere sort of east of the M6 between Preston and Carlisle, I'm going to be in a really good place to pick up that work. So I'm still up for working tonight, but I'm not necessarily going to pick up anything. I'm not expecting to. And I did look at going home, and I did price it in. And if I had just driven home, it's about 170 miles. I would have still made 230 odd pounds after fuel, so it wouldn't have been a disaster. But I just felt, let's not do that tonight. Let's have one night tramping out. I got a sense that tomorrow's going to be busy, being a Friday. Quite a lot of work came up from my home area for tomorrow morning, and when that happens, I kind of think the rest of the country will be quite busy. So I'm quite optimistic that tomorrow I'll make my way back home and make the money I need to make. Today it's been a really good day with just 3 jobs. I worked out my hourly rate, and it's a ridiculous amount. It's crazy, but I'll go through that in a moment. Right, one of the things that came up today, I'm just going to think where I'm going to go from. I'm going to kind of walk straight forward. One of the things that came up today was the cancellation, and I have a question. I think I know that when you have a change to the pricing, you mustn't upload your pod on the system until they've changed the price. And I think that I've learned that a few times. Well, the first time I did it, I learned not to do it next time. And today I was in a situation where the price that I'd agreed to 225 was still on the system, and I had to wait for them to update the price before I could upload the pod. I was thinking, well, what happens if I now upload the pod before they reduce the price? Can I hold them to that? I mean, it's unlikely, and it wouldn't be the right thing for me to do. But I just wondered, does anyone know what would end up happening if you closed off a full-priced job when we'd agreed a cancellation price, a lower price? So it's in your favour, effectively, by closing it off. Yeah, it crossed my mind, and I thought, well, I'm not going to do it, but I wonder what's to stop someone doing that who's less kind of moral about it, ethical. Okay, so let me give you some stats now. So today I have I start working at 8:40ish in the morning, and I've closed off at 5 o'clock. I was looking for work between 4:30 and 5, and so I thought that was a reasonable time to stop work. That gives me 8.25 hours of work. I'm going to round it up to 8.5. My mileage for today is 231 miles, 231, and my average pence per mile at the moment is 13.81 pence per mile for fuel. That means that my total cost for fuel today is £31.90, and my earnings today is £290, 290, well over £1 a mile. So my net earnings after fuel, so that 290 is made up from my £180 job this morning from Boston to Blackpool, plus the £50 cancellation that from Preston area up to Edinburgh area, and then the £60 in the Lancaster area. And so after fuel, that means I've earned £258 today, so over target. And I worked out based on that. Just let's go past. I'm going to head back now, I think. I've worked out based on my number of hours worked today that would come out as £20 and £95 per hour after I've taken off the £80 for business cost. So maybe it's not that hard to earn £20 an hour with this job. It surprised me when it came out as that. I'm beginning to think that one of the ways of making this work as a job is to kind of go with a 3-job day. Start early, get finished before 5. It's just that I prefer long trips. I prefer long days because I want to earn more money. So I think that for me, if a job comes up tonight, I'm definitely going to take it, because then I'm going to get actually more money. My hourly rate will be lower, but I'll actually earn more money over the course of the day. And it'll make tomorrow easier if I get another job today. So that's interesting. I wanted to spend a bit of time now talking or clarifying what I meant by framing yesterday, because I don't think I was very clear. So let me define it first of all, how I'm going to use those terms. So when I talk about framing, it's about one's mind sort of coming to a conclusion based on limited information the first time you come across something new, and then using that limited information to kind of base judgments on, often erroneously. And so I'll give you an example. This is the best way I can describe it. Imagine you've got somebody who's invented a rotary spangle, and they come to you and they say, this rotary spangle is going to make your life so much better in your van. It's £100, but because you're such a great guy, I'm going to give it to you £50. And you buy that rotary spangle, and it's great, and it does do the job that you want it to do, and it makes your life easier, and it's well worth the £50. And you're happy. What happens then if you find out at a later date that costs £5 for that person to buy, and that he's inflated it by like 10 times just to sell it to you? Well, the utility you're getting from that rotary spangle is exactly the same. All that's changed is that your knowledge about the actual price it costs to manufacture it. So what he did in that situation was he framed your expectation that £50 was a cheap price by saying to you £100 is the going rate. And if he'd said to you originally, this is costing me £5 to buy, but for you I'll let you buy it for £50, his framing in that case would have been the other way around, and you'd have thought it was a bad deal. Even if it was still a good item for you to have, because the framing, you would have thought, I'm not paying £50 for that thing, it's not worth it. So I hope that makes some sense. Framing is, in my mind, where you kind of take some information for the first time, a situation you're not used to. The first thing you hear is frames where you expect things to be in the future. And in the context of this job, it often comes about, I think, with pricing. So I was given, when I started, a price for £1.20 for a large wheelbase van job as being a fair price the shipper would pay. And I thought, yeah, that sounds reasonable. I don't know, from my research it sounds like it's alright. If I could get that for every job, great. And so now I'm aware that I've kind of limited myself intellectually by saying that's the most I can get for a large van job. Now I know it's not. I know there's, with my experience, you can get more than that. It depends on so many factors. But what happened there was, because I was inexperienced with this work, my expectation about what I could get was framed by that initial conversation. And what I think I'm seeing is lots of people who don't know about this work come into it because they think, well, how do you price this work up? And you get, if you look at YouTube and get advice, it's often you price work up as a pence per mile for the travel. And I think it's a really useful, quick way of working out a price, but it has got its dangers. London, for example, I now know you must not quote to do with pence per mile at all. It has to do with time. But with experience, I've forgot that. So I do see people talking about small van jobs, and that's the one I worry about the most. I get my small van jobs at close to £1 a mile most of the time, because in that case, because I've got a large van, because I want to earn more money, I've kind of framed in my own head that £1 a mile is fair. And I found that I can find work at that rate. Now if I can find work at that rate, you can as well. But maybe you're framing small van jobs as being 85p, 90p a mile, 70p a mile. And it might be that for some situations that is absolutely correct. So for example, if you're in an area with lots of people around you and there's lots of small van drivers, you're probably not going to get the £1 a mile first thing in the morning, because everyone's looking for work at the same time. But you might get that, you probably would get that mid-afternoon, late afternoon, when there's less competition. You just vary your style, your sort of bidding style. It might be that you can't do it at any time because of the area you're from. Maybe you're from a really quiet area, there's just no work. So it doesn't mean that £1 a mile for a small van job is not fair. It's just you probably can't get it using the same techniques as other people can. So in that scenario, you'd have to tramp and move to another area, and then you can get your £1 a mile. So I think framing, how I see it, does limit people's expectations. Oh, this is another example I want to say. It came up yesterday. Shippers do it as well. A classic framing is when a shipper puts on a job as a backload job. Now what they're doing there, and it's pretty transparent, but I think it still works, is that as soon as they put the word backload on, the driver sees that, and immediately their brain is going, this is a cheap job. Now they either decide, I want to do a cheap job because it's right for me, or they say I can't do a cheap job, I want a full price job. But the only thing about many of these backloads is that it has that label backload. The actual work is a hot shot. Look at the time it has to be picked up. Look at the time it has to be delivered. Most of these backloads I see on the system, they're not actually backloads. They're just the shipper framing the expectation to be lower than they want to pay. And I think that's a tactic that shippers use to get cheaper prices. And it does work, because obviously they keep doing it. The other tactic they use, which I know can irritate some people, is when the shipper puts in, we'll pay X amount for this job. Now sometimes I've seen that and it's actually been a pretty good rate. I think it's been over £1 a mile and it's been worth it. So that in itself isn't a problem, but it's a problem when they put it at a low rate. So if you're putting in 60p a mile, I will pay £30 for a 70-mile job, say, or £30 for a 50-mile job, then I think that's them trying to frame the job as being only available at that price. But actually, just I put in bids at the normal prices then, for two reasons. One, out of principle, it's worth it to me to do it for that price. And two, they might just go for your price because they might be bluffing. Just because they put in the system backload or pays £35 doesn't mean that is true. So as drivers, we have to understand the framing that shippers can do sometimes. Now, I think it's not the good shippers that do that. So I think it's the shippers that are on the poorer end of the scale that tend to do that. And maybe it's the bigger ones as well, I don't know. I think some big ones are good, some big ones are not so good. But yeah, so that's what I mean by framing. It's limiting. You limit your own decision-making options because you assume stuff which isn't actually true. If you think about it, it's not true. Another example I'll give is you can't make money in London. Well, maybe that's true. Maybe I can't because I don't live there. Maybe you can if you've got the right vehicle or the right location or the right contacts. So, and you can't make money in Cornwall or you can't make money in Norfolk. Well, I've said it kind of in the past, I don't like that kind of thinking. I think it's diminishing your expectations, and I think with ingenuity and with effort and work, you can make this work anywhere. You just might have to be a bit more clever about it, a bit more do something differently to other people. So again, what I was trying to say yesterday was, I'm not saying that I think it's right to get up late and work late at night, but it might work for somebody. You might have a situation where the part of the country you're in, that's where the work is. And just because no one else does it, doesn't mean it's not the right thing for you to do. Yeah, okay, I'm going to leave that there. I think I've explained that better than yesterday. So, steps-wise, I think I might be lost actually. I don't recognise this lane, so I'm on 5,000 steps at the moment. I'm going to bring this video to a close. I'm going to be looking out for work for tonight, but failing that, I'll be looking out tomorrow for work somewhere. And I need to perhaps work out where I park my van. Right. Good evening, everyone. Hope you're well. What have you learnt today?